I have with me today Dory Azar, who is not now a practicing architect and not now a practice owner, but he's based in Canada, and we're going to get into all of these reasons why. Because Dory and I have known each other for quite some time.
Hmm.
But Dory is also an architectural influencer on social media. And yes, that is a thing. I think of many of you know, and I've had many of those kind of people on the podcast. There's a few things here I'm really interested in as well that I don't think people know, but you're a natural lover, music lover, and a drummer,
Yes,
and you
that's
go
correct.
to concerts as well a lot.
Constantly, yeah. My wife is a university professor who does research in the music industry on drummers, ironically enough. So we
Oh,
get, and the research is done on them during live performance. So we get to go to plenty of shows with some pretty unique access to experience some meeting the bands and being side stage during the performances and stuff. It's pretty cool.
that's what that's wonderful. But Dory, I want to continue this introduction because this is so interesting. But you're not now a licensed architect, and we're going to find out all about that. But you have designed hundreds of buildings during your
Mhm.
career, mainly residential, but other
Yep.
buildings as well. And I really want to sort of, get your insights into this transition from being a licensed architect and now into your new role. And there's just some things that stand out for me. You believe that having an excellent understanding of how to build quality homes is really critical. I love that.
Hmm.
And designing smart, efficient, and functional projects. But
Yeah.
so you've been passionate about residential design. You've got a great talent. I've seen some of your work, and it's like
Oh, thank you.
what I think would come to mind with lots of people thinking, why is Dory now transitioned out of architecture? But first of all, I want to welcome you to the fourth season of the Broke Architect podcast. And firstly, we need to talk about where you are and I think a few people who are architects will recognize this building, but please introduce yourself and tell us why you are living in this building.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jason. Just want to make sure that the viewers know I am still a licensed architect. I'm just not practicing anymore. So I still maintain my license both in Ontario and Michigan. And where I am at right now is the state of Michigan. Um, I am at Frank Lloyd Wright's Affleck house in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan right now. And I know it looks like a screensaver, or not a screensaver, but like a fake background. But if I could just move the camera around and prove to the audience that we are actually here. Um, this beautiful home is owned by Lawrence Technological University, which I graduated from twice with my bachelor's and my master's. And they've owned this home for years. And last year I toured it for the first time. I never got around to coming to visit. It's about 20 minutes away from the campus. So never got around to visiting it and reconnected with the dean at the school recently with offers of giving back to the school and being a participating in some critiques or some public speaking to the students about social media or whatever it might be. And then I said I could also help promote the house because I know they're trying to do a fundraiser to take care of a few maintenance things around here. And then she looked at me and she says, "Hey, do you want to stay there?" I said, "I'm sorry, what?" And she said, "Would you like to spend some time there, like a few days or whatever?" Yeah, it's no big deal. Like nobody lives here. They just have it. They use it for visiting professors. They offer tours. So I said, the same thing we would all say. Yeah, as
Hell
long as you're not
yeah.
joking, yes. And so that's why I'm here. I'm working remote for a week at the Frank Lloyd Wright Affleck House, generously loaned to me by Lawrence Technological University.
That is wonderful, and I am so jealous. If they
I
ever
wish you were
want,
here. If you were closer, I'd have you over. It's no problem.
yeah, if they ever want a British architect to come over as well, put me in touch with them.
I'll let them know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wonderful because I think we've had this conversation off the podcast, Dory. So I studied architecture
Mhm.
inspired by seeing an image of fallen water.
Mhm.
And I did my thesis on Unity Temple. I
Beautiful.
visited over 100 Frank Lloyd Wright buildings in the US. So I'm very, very jealous. And
Mhm.
it's wonderful. But anyway, we're going to get into, I think, a really good conversation here. And I want to talk about
Yeah.
this career transition first. So can you take us back to the moment when you decided to close down your architecture practice, which is not an easy thing to do,
No.
and and what have been the biggest challenges in sort of winding your practice down and yeah, if you can just talk us through what
Yeah.
you were going through.
So let me thank you first because I know you wanted to have this conversation a long time ago, and I
Yeah,
wasn't ready yet. There's a lot of identity crisis that comes with practicing architecture, and then one day you're not practicing architecture anymore. Like I had to relinquish my stamp, and that's you work your whole life for something. It's hard to put that in the mail and send it back to your association. Um, so really, what I think where the sort of moment that it all started to twist for me. Business was great. I was having some fun, but I was having some not fun also. It's really hard running a small practice where you're wearing a million hats and things like that. And there was a moment where my social media, this is really going back to my social media,
yeah,
where it really started to take off. So there was this like, I was kind of having these doubts about running a practice, like, am I having fun anymore? Do I enjoy this as much as I used to? Like, there's moments of it that are exhilarating, and then there's moments of it that are exhausting. And it's just, I'm not telling a story that no other architect has probably told before, right? The ups and the downs,
yeah,
and I was kind of keeping track of them, and the less fun things were happening more than the fun things. So I was like, okay, I'm trying to find a way to get out of that, right? And out of that rut or that funk. And then call it what you want, but at the same time, my social media completely blew up. And I love being social. I love being outgoing, energetic, sharing information, making people smile, all the things that social media allows me to do. And so while practicing was kind of like, wasn't really fulfilling me as much anymore, this social media thing was really fulfilling me. Like
yeah,
it was um it catered to my shorter attention span. Getting a building designed and built takes years, right? But impacting people on social media takes minutes. Like it, so I
yeah.
was finding that feedback loop much smaller, and I was having a lot more fun with that. So through it, I was like, wrestling with these two things. I'm focusing on my business, and in every second of spare time, I'm making content. And there was a moment. Actually, I bet you it's about 2 years ago to the day. Um, I got about 100,000 followers on Instagram in about 2 weeks. It just
Wow.
skyrocketed. Really fortunate like that. And so that's what I was wrestling with is all these eyeballs now over here and so this battle, right? So I reached out to a friend of mine who I know you've had on the show before, Amy Baker,
Yes.
who's from Michigan also. And I said, Amy, I explained to her what I just explained to you guys, and I said, I think I want to do something more social, more representing the profession, more, just less of the practice stuff and more of the forward facing stuff. And in about 2 seconds, she says, I know this company who's looking for a qualified guy who can, it's a software company, but they're like, they want somebody credible, outgoing, kind of to be the face of the company that can do public speaking, do a lot of social media, host their webinars and podcasts and do all. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. So that was kind of that itch that I was trying to scratch professionally was like, I want to be more at that in that role. And um, that happened really, really fast. She put me in touch with the company, which is RIB Software. Shout out RIB. And yeah, we interviewed and it went amazing. And, I had to make a quick decision to commit to, not a quick decision, but I had to make a decision to commit to them. right?
Yeah.
And they knew I had a practice and all. They were very, very understanding of it all. So it's like, okay, yes, I will take that job. Um, Now, getting out of practice is a whole other animal. And I don't know if there's anybody who's earlier mid-career who's even thought about what it takes to exit an architectural firm, um, especially if you're not selling it. That wasn't something that I had considered. So it was tapering. There's this weird period where you're finishing existing projects and saying no to new projects.
Yeah.
So that results in a money situation, right? Like, how do I'm finishing projects and saying no to other projects. I mean, you know how it goes. You keep getting projects to keep that money rolling, but
Yeah.
at some
Cash
point
flow. Yeah.
you gotta break that link and say, okay, I've got enough money backed up where I can, sustain myself financially until those projects are done while saying no to all of these other potential projects that are coming in. So that took about a year of it's and maybe like a quick job would come in for a repeat client. You're like, yeah, I can do that one real quick and kind of get that out. And so it was really, and some of them were really great projects to say no to, but I was kind of in that, like, you made a decision, stick with it,
Yeah.
move on. And so, yeah, I've been happily with RIB software now for um, it's about 16 months, and it's been no regrets. I'm so happy to say no regrets. They've given me every outlet I need to feel professionally fulfilled while still maintaining the credibility of being an architect.
That's wonderful. And I hear that more and more today when people do leave architecture, they just seem so much more happier. And I don't know what that says about the profession. And you said you enjoyed architecture, but there were periods where you didn't. And
I was I was a big fan of the first half of a project. I
mm,
loved meeting clients, getting clients, winning them over, signing them, um, schematic design, design development, right up until like final design got approved, and then it was like, oh, I don't feel like detailing a project. I would, that
yeah,
that second half of like the CA and the CDs and stuff wasn't my passion. Like, I wasn't really passionate about it. So, you get that high of like getting a new project, getting a new client, designing it, and then like, now we got to do all that the stuff that I didn't love as much. And that's the reality. I mean, I can do it.
yeah,
Obviously, we made it. I practiced for 14 years, so and a lot of them were alone. Um, so it was, yeah, it's just something it's a tough decision, and it's even when you make the decision, it's still there's a period of
mm,
time where you have to make sure if you're responsible, if you're signing off on a project when it's done, you have to maintain in where I practice, we have a certificate of practice. So you get your architectural license, and if you want to open up a firm, you get what's called a certificate of practice, and that gets you your stamp, and then that's what allows and your insurance, and that's what allows you to practice. So backing out of all that takes time. Like, it's
yeah,
just what it is. But yeah, I'm seeing more, and I don't know if it's just the algorithm or not, but more people finding alternate ways to express themselves architecturally.
yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
whether I think you would call that well, you're not really leaving the industry, but you're kind of not, chained to a desk, doing details all day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, and what I like about this and the discussion on social media with the people I follow is people talking about architects with their training can do so many more things. If they just
Hmm.
open their mind, they can have everything that they want. They can
Hmm.
have the money, the fulfillment,
Hmm.
and it doesn't have to be being an architect. So I just wanted to say that because I've got my next question really is it's about like what surprised you about stepping away from running your own practice into this new career path? Because there must have been some surprises here for you.
There, yeah, the that's the very easy answer, Jason. I don't think architects realize how hard they work,
Mm,
and the volume of work and the the thought process and thinking power that goes into every day of being an architect, like the hundreds, if not thousands, of decisions you're making constantly is exhausting. And so it was, and I'm not saying I don't work hard now.
Yeah.
Um, I would say I work for a bigger company, so there's people, there's a marketing team, there's a sales team. There's people that do, again, when you're sole practitioner or with a
Yeah.
small firm, everybody's doing everything, right? And now it's like, if my email goes down for some reason, that's not, I don't have to worry about that now. I can keep working on other things while somebody else solves that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, my biggest realization was how many things we did or tried to do on any given day. It's just no wonder there's so much burnout and so much stress around the profession because it's never ending.
Yeah. Yeah. You must I'm not saying it's not difficult where you're working, but I don't know, the workload must have ramped down for you because you would have been juggling so many different things.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep. Oh,
yeah.
ask my wife what happened to my stress levels. She's like, you're like a different human being now. It's just, um, and I don't think we recognize that sometimes in the profession, how, um, and I'm not generally a stressed guy. I'm a pretty like laid back guy,
Mm.
you know, I try not to get worked up over too many things. And yeah, now she's like, and I didn't sacrifice anything on at all on salary and um fulfillment too. It's like, I don't know, I get to do I have these creative outlets that are still rooted in architecture and design. I'm talking to a
Yeah.
lot of other architects now. I'm talking to spec writers, and that's still I still feel connected to the industry. I'm just not stamping drawings anymore.
Yeah, okay. Okay. You've touched on the how you got the job, and it was a pure case, I seem to think, of networking, and is something I really,
Oh,
really believe in, this contact
mhm.
with Amy. But what can you share about, that sort of experience of going from an employer, really,
Mhm.
and being independent and an entrepreneur to go in to become an employee? You had to go for an interview with the company.
Yeah.
Just talk me through this.
That was I almost, you do a lot of meetings as an architect, right? So it didn't even feel like an interview. It just felt like a thing that we're talking about. Um, but it was, there are moments where you're like, oh man, when you run a small firm, you're very nimble.
Mm.
Like I would often joke, I could change my logo tomorrow morning and nobody would, that's on me. I can do whatever I want to do. And now it's like, no, you don't get to decide on that. That's not your decision anymore. That's not your decision. So, kind of removing yourself from um, yeah, somebody else is making these decisions. There are people above you, who are in control of those things. So, um, just knowing the trick has been knowing when to like, okay, that's you expressed your concern, stop there. That's not your place anymore. And obviously before my own practice, I worked for other people. So you've had that experience, but then it goes away for a decade and a half, and now it's back, and it's like, okay, no, but on some days it's great. It's nice to have somebody else some days
Yeah,
be like, hey, what am I doing now? Like I'm pretty autonomous, but some days it's like, okay, how do we want to do this? Somebody else is making the big decision, and that's, you know, liberating, quite liberating some days.
yeah, wonderful. No, no, I love this honesty, and I'm interested now in your skills as you are an architect, really. That you still are. You're just not practicing. But how do those skills that you've gained as an architect have helped you in your new role?
Mhm.
Because you do this speaking, and you still do the social media. Just what skills are you kind of really capitalizing on in your new role?
I think the one ability that any good architect would have is the ability to step back, assess a situation, how to break it into pieces, and put it back together in a way that makes sense. So, um, time management, but also it's really sort of designing your workflow, right? So if we have an objective, say, hey, Dory, we need you to do this. Well, as architects, we can, if somebody came to you and said, "Hey, I need you to design this building," you know exactly how to back that up, where you got to start, what steps you need to do to reach that end goal. And I find that I get there pretty quick because it's our
Mm.
brains just move fast and are good at anticipating problems, hurdles, uh, adjusting and getting around them and getting to the end result. It's not it's the same sort of skill set we use designing a building, right? You ask a lot of questions, you get an understanding, you try to understand as much as possible what the end goal is, and then you kind of reverse engineer that to a starting point and rebuild it to meet your goals. So I think that as a problem solver, whether you're applying those problems to bricks and mortar or video content or a public presentation, those skills transfer over great. I'll tell any architect. I was talking to some students the other night. I was at an award ceremony recently, 2 nights ago, and there's some younger students I was talking to, and they're, oh, I don't know if I want to do this with my architecture or that for my architecture, and they're 19 years old, right? They're very, very young. So I'm like, just
Yeah.
finish the course that you're on because the skills that you're getting in an architectural education can go anywhere. Absolutely anywhere with you. And I used to speak about that to other high school students. Like some, sneaker designers have been architects and other set designers and like, TV and film. And there's a million different directions you can take your design skills. Animation. Like I remember the first day I realized that, animation companies, big budget animation movie, when they create environments, they're creating buildings and like they need architects on staff to understand those built environments to translate them to digital assets to be able to incorporate them in their films. So it's not that we always have to design a restaurant or a school or something. Like you can take the skill set and shop it, right? And it's just as fulfilling. Like to me, anyways. Like I've had my share of buildings built. I've scratched that itch, and now it's kind of fun to see some other things come to life.
Ah, excellent. Yeah, Dory, I think what I'd like to sort of look at now is the new role and responsibility, so
Hmm.
you've moved into this new job. So I think people would be really interested in what a typical day looks like now compared to your time in traditional practice where you were literally doing everything.
Well, it's funny you caught me on a very non-traditional day. So I'm never normally talking to an excellent man like you, and I'm never normally in a Frank Lloyd Wright house. So a typical day is not this. But some of the roles and responsibilities, first and foremost, is I'm an in-house consultant. So we have a large team that works out of our Atlanta office, and I'm often called upon as an industry expert. Just they're talking to a lot of other architects and owner product building owners and stuff. And so they're looking for support and maybe how to frame a certain wording or how to approach a certain architect or kind of what are they interested in, how can I say this, and one of the funny ones that comes to mind is I said don't write 3 paragraphs of information, write 3 sentences of information because if they see a lot of text they're not going to read it. I host a webinar every 2 weeks called Spec Talk, where we invite industry leading spec writers from across the United States and Canada to join us to talk about their spec writing journey, tips and tricks, to share their expertise with us, both just as spec writers, but also in the software that we promote called SpecLink. So that's one of my big responsibilities. I do a lot of traveling for appearances, so conferences or trade shows or speaking engagements, networking events. It's really the when it comes down to it, the simplest way of explaining it is brand ambassador. So I am out there to help people know that the company exists, to help them understand what it does, put it on their radar, and then support our internal team to understand the industry from an expert perspective.
Absolutely. And you've got that credibility instantly with your clients.
It's Yeah, it's been really, when we get on meetings and I just say, yeah, well, I'm an architect also, and it's just, you know, the uh, the tension in the room goes down because sometimes it's nice to talk to somebody who understands your problems.
Hmm. I want to talk about fulfillment as well. And this is, you can also talk about maybe the fulfillment you get now from this new role
Hmm.
as opposed to the fulfillment you would kind of get of completing a building. It must be, is it different or is it similar? I'm just interested in that analogy between practice and then your new brand ambassador job.
You, architecturally, if I could, you're catching me on a real honest day, Jason. You know that, right? So architecturally, I found sometimes you could have a resentment towards a project by the end of it. If it was hard, if it was difficult or the construction process was particularly challenging or, it you kind of like, oh, finally it's done. Like finally we're done with this. Like rather than celebrating it, it was like, oh, thank
Mm.
God. Like now that's I don't have to deal with A, B, and C anymore. Um, but there's nothing better than having a building come to life that exists, right? And you can drive down the street and point out to your kids um, that. So maybe one day I'll miss that. I don't know. But right now I'm okay. But the fulfillment that comes with the new role is so I often think of it like this, Jason. When I um, didn't have this role, my world was smaller, my network was smaller, and it was what it was. I was a small town architect, and everything was great. And now I think about the people that are in my life now, not just the quantity, but the quality of people that are in my life now that wouldn't have existed had my social media not skyrocketed. So
Mm.
it's funny how the root of it all was being an architect with an outgoing person, an extroverted architect who used social media as an outlet to just, promote his firm and, entertain people, turned into something like what it is now. It's is very kind of following where the energy was pushing me. I just kind of felt that like I had a different purpose to serve in architecture, and nothing says you have to design buildings forever, right? I didn't need to die on a
No.
drafting board or anything like that. So, yeah, I was very proud of my portfolio of work that I've done. I'd be happy. I'll share it with anybody. It's not, um, you know, uh, anything like that. It was just ready for a change. So now the fulfillment is, um, being recognized at a conference, being asked to speak at speaking events, at events, being offered experiences like this. Like, had I not done my social media a couple of years ago, this doesn't exist. You and
Yeah.
I don't exist, right? And I can attribute more overall fulfillment from my social media and the subsequent journey than I probably could from my practice years. Because, like I said, this wasn't, you know, there's some, uh, I've spoken at my provincial conference multiple years. Collaborated with the American Institute of Architects last year to help them promote their conference. They reached out to me and asked me to do that. And like these things didn't happen. They were never going to happen had I stayed where I was. And now to be part of that, to be part of these things and these opportunities, um, are just it puts a smile on my face every day. Honest to God, I look at like sometimes my follower count, and I just smile. I'm like, this is the craziest life ever. The fact that you're halfway across the world and we've met and even like we've never collaborated, we've never worked on a project together or anything, but I love your company. I love chatting with you. I love reading everything you post on LinkedIn. And it's like this would not have existed. Like not
No.
just well, I get to talk to him more now. No, would not have existed. Would not know who Jason Boyle is. Would not know who that person is. Would not know that company existed. But like, so it's shattered my world wide open. And now I'm like, oh, okay. This now I feel like I get a lot more stuff. Right before it was so like small, and now it
Mm.
just feels like now I feel like I have a sense of how big the world is and the opportunity that exists. So it's fulfillment like that really makes me um, it's going to make it hard for me to miss practice. Like love designing buildings. Don't get me wrong. I do TikTok live every once and again and do fun floor plans and in
Yeah.
Revit, and I still like to keep my skills fresh, but right now it's the fulfillment of impacting people meeting them, teaching them something. I speak on social media at conferences as well, and um, yeah, that's where my fulfillment comes from. And like I said, the feedback loop is much quicker. So I can
Yeah.
get on a microphone, speak to an audience for 60 minutes, and have impacted a room full of people more easily than I could do that with designing a building.
This is why
And
I keep telling people, Dory, social media is so important, and I just don't think many people get it. Still, I
I
just
have
find it crazy.
all the I have all the evidence I need,
Yeah.
and of other people as well, of you're one post, literally one post away from changing your life to whatever
Mm,
you want. That's one of the things I talk about in when I talk about social media to audiences, saying, hey, like, you don't have to post about everything. Post about what you do best.
mm,
Put out what you're trying to attract. Like, if you want to design homes, prove on social media that you know everything there is to know about home design. But don't start posting about restaurant design or school design if you don't want that work. Like, don't.
yeah.
Why would you try to show yourself as an authority in something, and then when you get it, you're like, yeah, but I don't want that. Um, yeah, we have so much control over our careers through social media, that I wish I don't know, it's still, I'm trying to understand that wall that people have between wanting to do it, because I think everybody wants to do it. I think in their heart, everybody would
Yeah.
love to be more active on social media in general. But there's a roadblock. And I think the trick is you don't often get quick success on social media. God, I was posting for 5 or 6 years before it hit,
Yes.
So, and if you get down on yourself, or like, what am I doing this for? This, I'm just gonna stop. It's not worth it. Um, yeah. So I was, like I said, I'd had like, 1,000 followers. Then, 2 years later, I was at 2,000 followers. And then summer of 2023, it kind of started to go up, and I hit like 8,000 by the end of the summer. I had a video that kind of got a few 100,000 views. That was like, okay, this is happening. And then I had like 2 weeks in a row where every video I posted was just multi-million view videos that just, it was crazy to watch the numbers climb like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, it's wonderful to see, and I try and encourage people to really embrace social media because I think it can lead you in down so many different paths and opportunities, and I really believe in it. I want to ask about your wife, and you've mentioned your wife briefly, but you said that your wife values the stability of your new job. And I'm asking quite a personal question is, but how
mhm.
has that shift in financial security maybe? Because you every month you're going to be getting paid because you're a salaried person now.
That's
How has
correct.
that changed your outlook of work?
It's again, there's a certain liberating feeling that comes with it. Because in practice, at least in my small practice, there were months where, you're the richest guy in the world, and then you're the poorest guy in the world. And it's really smoothed out the curve. So there's a lot more predictability of, hey, I get this much money now, and that's what you get. And I still do like some additional things, some consulting, and sell some merch, and, do some brand deals and whatnot that sort of bring in some bonus revenue. But in general, it's been, um, yeah, just leveling out that curve of, well, we had a big month. Well, that guy delayed his contract, and I was expecting that money, and that's not coming in this month. So we got to, move a bunch of things around to make this work. And then, that's gone now. And it's really nice. So I was more, comfortable with the ups and downs, but my wife, um, is very happy that she doesn't have to deal with those anymore.
Yeah, I think
I can't
I
wait for her
think
to watch this.
no, I think it's important we discuss, these sort of things because partners and the pressure of um on you and the relationship that can
Mhm.
have, people are divorced over these sort of things. Let's
Oh,
be honest.
I do. I often wonder how two architects can be married to each other. Like
Yeah.
I've seen, I've got, know some people who are the husband and wife were both architects, and I thought, how do you talk about anything else besides architecture? Besides, and they run practices together.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how do you shut that off? It must be so hard.
I think going back to social media and
Mhm.
I know some of this and maybe I know the answer to this, but I'm really interested in what you truly feel. But how do you manage the pressure of consistently creating content whilst, doing this demanding job as brand ambassador? Because, I know myself from, I get home from work and I'm pumping out content
Yeah.
still. So because I love it, but is
Yeah.
it the same for you? How do you do it?
Um, it's rarely an obligation. Rarely do I feel like it's, oh man, I gotta make a video. I gotta post it. Like I'm um have settled in my mind that, I'll post 3 to 6 times per week. I usually have a schedule that I try to follow.
Hmm.
And I usually batch my content all in one day. So it might be a Sunday that I'm busy for, you know, a good part of the day producing content that might last me for the next 2 weeks. So it's not that I'm constantly making content. I'm constantly brainstorming content,
Yeah.
constantly making notes in my phone. And if I showed you my notebook for my stay here, it's like, oh, that's a cool detail. I should make a detail on that. And so yeah, there's an element of social media that you just have to love doing it. Like I couldn't imagine um, you being this active in it and hating it.
Yeah.
I think there's certain personality types that might be more conducive to it. And yeah, it's just been so good to me. I know social media comes with its problems too, and there's it's not always, rainbows out there. I have a whole part of my presentation on social media dedicated to the dark side of social media and, trolls and naysayers and, what your close friends might not support you in what you're
Yeah.
trying to do. They might not, so I do touch on that as well because it is a reality. It's not like you're going to post one video and get a million views and everyone's going to think you're the greatest thing in the world. Um,
Yeah, I think it's worth touching on just briefly because I have these issues, Dory, as well, because I work in the nuclear sector and
mhm.
I always have this worry at the back of my mind about what I can and can't post. And I've come close a few times, let's say, with being very close to the edge of what I can and can't publish, and I try as much as possible stay away from posting anything about the employers I work for, and just try and
Mhm.
keep it kind of
Yeah.
my commentary on what's going on in architecture, etc. So,
Hmm.
do you have that same worrying concern, or
Uh, so one thing that I love about your content is it's not really apologetic. You know that you're going to post something and you're going to probably get beat up a little bit in the comments section. And I don't know if you expect that every
yeah,
time or not, but you're kind of at that edge where you're like, just like, you're going to make people uncomfortable with some hard truths. And that's the reality of it. Um, my my approach is a little bit different. My content is more lighthearted
hmm,
in a sense. So I've found a sweet spot where the trolling is limited, but I am very aware that your one wrong post, one bad comment, you're one thing away from it all going away. As fast as it showed up, you know, um, it could go away, and that's maybe if I'm doing anything wrong, I play it a little safe on social media. Architecturally, I don't it's funny because I'm like part of my whole thing is making fun of built conditions that are too impossible to believe. But in general, I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not talking politics or religion or anything that could just we're all here to laugh and learn about architecture. And so that's the content that I try to provide. Good, energetic, lighthearted, enjoyable content. I'll leave the big topics to you. But so yeah, but yeah, I'm very aware that at any moment you get the wrong comment or you say the wrong thing we all do it, right? Just in a moment you said the wrong thing or replied to the wrong comment, and
Yeah.
you know, um, so yeah, I'm like before I click that share button, I'm very mindful of must watch those videos 100 times before I post them. Just what could go wrong? One time it's so funny. One time I posted a video about roofs, just various different roof designs, and um, whatever. I wasn't wearing a shirt in the video because I was making a roof. So being topless, I thought it was kind of funny, but I was only like from my collarbones up. It wasn't
Yeah.
revealing at all. And I put within the first 10 minutes, I had like 4 comments from people like angry that I would do such a thing. And I watch your content with my kids, and here you are not wearing a shirt. And I was like, whoa, like like literally it was my collarbones like up. And I was like, okay. So um that was one of the in that moment I think I took the video down, put a shirt on, and remade the video because it was just kind of a commentary, like a green screen
Yeah.
one, so it went pretty quick. But um yeah, what you think is perfectly harmless, you could have a few people start not to like, and people love to pile that on, right? And if a lot of those things are what's the word I'm looking for? Um, like socially propelled, right? If you didn't like it and you didn't like it and you didn't like it, well, now I'm going to be offended by it too. And then it just kind of gets bigger, and
It's
it's like, whoa, this isn't, guys, this might not be a problem. Like this might not
no,
be a
no,
problem.
no, absolutely. And I've got to be careful about the comments I make on other people's posts because if I
Hmm.
say something that's completely against what someone said, then I've got obviously a lot of people who read my comment and they'll jump in, and then I feel really bad because
Yeah, because
they're
you're an influencer
yeah,
and you
exactly.
influence. Yeah. And
Yeah,
so
you
let's touch on that for a second, because
yeah,
that's not where people's brain goes when you say Jason's an architectural influencer. It doesn't mean Jason's selling you this new mouse that you should use because it's the greatest thing. He's not trying to sell you products.
no,
Jason has a large audience, and if Jason says that firm is garbage, he's going to have dozens of thousands of people thinking, okay, well, Jason, he's earned my trust. If he says they're garbage, then they're garbage. And it's like, that's influence also, right? If
yeah,
you say something is good or something is bad, you influence people in how they perceive things. You're not influencing them to buy, the next phone or webcam or anything. You're influencing them in how they perceive situations.
yes,
And that is still architectural influencing. You started the podcast here with, architectural influencer is a thing. And it'd be really important for your audience to know that influencing just isn't like, helping a company sell a product. It's your own agenda and how you view the world, and how you can make people also view the world like that,
yeah, very
whether
true.
right or wrong.
No, no, absolutely love it. My last three questions for you, Dory, are focused on the industry and future opportunities. And so, what I wanted to ask is, why do you think architects are often, well, they often undervalue themselves? They often accept lower fees, or early in their career, they'll maybe do unpaid roles.
Hmm.
When other professionals, and I always use this phrase, lawyers, don't seem to
Hmm.
do any of this nonsense.
Well, I've been honest with you this whole conversation, so I'll be honest with you again. I have no idea. I don't know how that gets quietly ingrained in us, um, because it's not cheap or easy to become an architect. You have to fight through your education and fight through your licensing, and like it's not easy to get there. So when we get there, all of a sudden we become small again, and oh, I'll do that. I mean, you shouldn't do it for free, but like, oh, I'll do it for whatever. I just need a project to start building my portfolio with. And I think, I hate the word, but I think there's a desperation that comes with it, that um, the only competing, the perception is the only competing thing you have against other firms might be your fee, because you certainly don't have the catalog of work. You certainly don't have the staff. You certainly don't have the fancy office. You might be working out of your basement or your garage or something in the early days, trying to get it figured out. So I think, and complete lack of business training when you become an architect. There's not a lot of business courses out there that teach you um, how to run a practice, how to charge fees, right? I know when I was coming up through my internship, um, employers kept things very quiet. I didn't know what they were charging for projects. I didn't know what they were billing me out at. I knew what I made every 2 weeks, what showed up in my bank account, and that was it. So it's funny because then you go out on your own and you're charging low fees, but you don't know they're low fees because nobody told you that they were low fees. But then those same people who wouldn't tell you fees get upset with you for charging such low fees and undercutting them. And it's like, if we would just help each other as an industry,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
do you really care if you're 5% more or less than me? Like, uh, in the big picture, I think if we all kind of understood how the game is played, I think we all benefit from it. And being in the world of spec writers now, I will tell you, they are like that. The um, they support each other so much. Like if you're a young and up and coming spec writer, everybody adopts you. They take you under their wing. They make sure, like, if you have any questions, if you have any need, any
Yeah.
introductions to people, it's a very, very, very nurturing profession. Um, Architecture, I felt, that's so fun to speak openly about it now, but it did feel like um, threatening, if that's the right choice of words here. It's like, oh, who's this new practice here, and who's this guy? He only does, he's from a city farther away, and now they're in my city, coming into my city to do work. Like, no, it's territorial and it's
Yeah.
compet, but it doesn't feel like healthy competition. It feels threatening. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I've heard this being said in the UK quite a lot, Dory. So I
Yeah.
absolutely agree. I think what you said in early on in your answer is so true, and about how you're starting out and you're desperate because you want to
Hmm.
get that first job. I think the desperation thing, I think you've hit the nail on the head there with a lot of the reasons why we do these things and
Hmm.
undervalue ourselves. Uh,
Right. And it's the switch has to flip. Like if we could all agree on the same day to charge the same rate. Like just I'm talking to the young architects now, right? If
yeah,
they, instead of charging uh $5, I'm just making up a number here, instead of charging $5, tomorrow you're charging $10. And that's it. And you all agree to it and nobody else is undercutting anybody else. Then you're quoting work based on the merit of your skills and abilities, which is where it should all be. Now you get older, like looking at it now, right? It's like, man, I would never want to compete on fees anymore. Like what a dangerous place to dwell,
yeah,
because then you get a reputation for being the inexpensive guy, and then we all know the clients that you get when you're the cheapest guy in town are the hardest clients on earth to please. Um, so yeah, it's
yeah.
it's a wild ride. I recommend everybody should run their own practice for at least a little bit. Just so you know what it's like. It'll harden you up pretty quick.
I agree. I agree. I think that's very true. And yeah, and sadly, the great thing about you is, you've chosen to run down your practice. I think a lot of people that I've spoken to before simply go bust, and that's how they shut down their
Oh
practice.
yeah?
Yeah. So
Oh, that's
yeah, but
tough.
there's plenty of episodes where I've talked about this.
Yeah.
But the last, again, second from last question, really, Dory here,
Hmm.
and I'll give you my opinion, but I want to hear your opinion first.
Oh,
Do you
you're gonna
think
influence me now, aren't you?
yeah, well, I want you to freely answer this, but do you think architects are more respected outside of the profession? Because you're coming in now to a company that you're probably the only architect in that company.
Hmm.
than when you're actually in a practice and as an architect. Where do you think you're most respected?
Um, yeah, it is interesting to go from always being surrounded by architecturally minded people to that being the minority thought, right? Is
Mm.
that okay, now it's, when you talk to other people, we use certain language, right? And they sometimes look at you like, what are you what are you saying? I have no idea what you mean. It's like, oh, okay, let me, change how I explain that. So um uh yeah, the I feel most valued for the just the information and experience and the training that I've got, that we've all got, that any architect with my experience would have. Um, it's yeah, I think that would be the answer to that question, is
Yeah,
um, in sharing in the consulting and we really don't realize how much we know until you kind of get out of that pool of everybody knows what you know. And then you go into the real world and you're like, wow, we do really have a unique skill set, and problem solving eye. So yeah, that's it's been like that for me.
yeah. I think I've stepped into a new role recently and
Hmm.
going in, and I'm the only architect in this company that are doing a fusion plant. And
Hmm.
I feel completely respected, much more than
Hmm.
I ever did,
Yeah.
and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
They come into me and a lot of the young engineers and asking me, how we're going to do this, how we're going to do that, and it's
Yeah.
I wouldn't get that if I was sat in a traditional practice because eh, you know it just wouldn't happen. So I
It's
think
not the culture. Yeah, it's
no.
not, it
It
doesn't happen like that.
Yeah, and it's really sad, I think, that
Yeah.
you're not as respected within your own profession and
Yeah.
surrounded by your colleagues than you
It's
are
really
somewhere else.
uh, there absolutely, it's really um to kind of get that. I mean, we don't need a lot of validation, but every once in a while it's nice to hear that you're impressing someone, or like, oh man, we're so lucky to have you here. That's, if it wasn't for you,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have been able to do this, and just those things, right? In architecture, it's yeah, it's less so, and you have to, yeah, it's just less. I don't know how to explain it, but definitely taking my skill set out of the bounds of traditional architectural practice has been, I've gotten more praise and compliments in the last year than I would have in several years prior.
Yeah. Because I just wanted to ask that question because I personally believe that people don't tell you when you're doing a good enough job. I don't think there's enough praise that happens in the industry. And
Hmm.
that might sound not very important to a lot of people, but I think on a personal level, I think it really is important. And if you're not getting that feedback very often, I think
Hmm.
it can really ruin your potential, and it's why I think a lot of people kind of get a little bit depressed in their profession.
Yeah, yeah. One thank you goes a real long way.
It does.
One little acknowledgement.
It does. It does.
Mhm.
The final thing is related to now where you are. You are staying in this Frank Lloyd Wright house, the Affleck house.
Yeah.
It is just truly amazing. But I wanted to ask you about what does Wright's work mean to you personally, and
Hmm.
and how after this experience, I mean, we're recording this podcast, will you share this experience with others? Are you going to talk about this? With colleagues or other students because
Hmm.
what an experience.
Yeah. It's so I don't know when this podcast will be posted, but there's a lot of content coming out of this house with me. That's going to be sort of, posted in the coming days and weeks. Wright's work to me is, I'll tell you what, I can very much uh, make a direct connection with why it's oh, important to me. First of all, it's residential design, but primarily, I mean, his most iconic, some of his most iconic works are residential, but I think
Yeah.
his approach to residential design. Um, I mean, people look at this now and say like, "Wow, this is so modern. It's so wow." And I'm like, "This is like 80 years old. This is not a new home by any stretch." And
Yeah.
so one for me, I love, and it's one of the reasons I practiced residential design primarily, is I always liked um, having an impact on people's lives. Like I often say, people go to work, but they can't wait to leave work to come home. And I wanted to be responsible for the place, you know, where they when they wanted to rest at the end of the day that they came to, where they celebrated Christmas with their family and birthdays and kind of core memory things.
Mm.
So how people live has always been a really important thing to me. Um, and I was always raised. So my father was a contractor too, growing up, that built homes as well. So I was kind of always involved in that swirl. But specifically to Wright, the thing that stands out the most to me is that when I look at his residential projects, so we can look behind me here. Um, in general, like everything here is readily available. I can go buy plywood, and build these chairs. I can go get some brick. I can go buy some wood. I can go buy windows. They're all, you see some of the high end architecture, the Zahas and the Garys and stuff. And it's like that stuff is like
Yeah.
I don't know, like I don't relate to like curved titanium panels. Like I don't relate to that. But brick people understand, concrete people understand, glass people understand, right? And it's the relatability of his materials and the to some extent the availability of his materials that are like, yeah, it's not just wood. I know some of it's specialty, specific stuff,
Tangible, isn't it? It's
but
real
it's tangible.
tangible.
Yes, yeah, um it's somehow not offensive, but still avant-garde. Like it just strikes this beautiful balance between um, what is that and why can't I get enough of it?
Hmm.
Because it's got a real draw to it. So yeah, for me, it's that. It's the residential component, which I absolutely love, but also the relatability of his designs as well, of the materials of his designs.
Well, Dory, I just want to really thank you for being on this podcast today. It's taken a long time for me to get you onto this
Thank you
podcast.
for your patience. Yeah.
And it's been a wonderful. And I just lastly, maybe you could just move the camera around as much as you're able, just
Oh,
for a final
absolutely.
kind of
So
shot. It would be,
yeah, yeah. Give me 1 second here. Let me. So this is, I'm kind of sitting in the middle of the main living space. So if
yeah,
this way are it's a long terrace that runs all the way alongside.
yeah,
Um, that is the living area. That really bright area, it'll just in a second. That's the main entrance. So that on the other side of that is the bedroom wings. So you can see these, where's my finger here? Right. I'm having a tough time pointing.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
right over there, the window that's open, that's the office. So that's where I'm working there. Where's the fireplace? That fireplace is,
Wow.
they don't use it anymore. It's pretty wild to think. That's like a big fire in the middle of your room. There's
I've got
there's
one the
not
same, similar size. I can stand inside my
I
fireplace.
can literally, I think that's 6 feet, probably a couple of meters above, 1.8 meters above the ground.
Yeah,
And then there's a door there, a brown door there, wood door. That is to the exterior. Well, where the light's coming in, it's next to that panel. That's the kitchen around that corner there. And then
yeah,
this is the dining area. And that table is in three parts. So maybe it's kind of nestled into it's nestled into the corner and it's made up of a few parts. I'm using one of the parts right now. I've pulled it away so that I can be in a different area. There's actually a
yeah.
floor receptacle that I needed to plug into. So, and then yeah.
Yeah, I just love the use of natural light and just how they've got that clear story sort of glazing that.
Oh yeah. And at night, oh, we could do this all over again at night, and it takes on a whole new um, personality. It's really dark, like really. The materials are dark. It's so intimate at night. It just really because the lighting now, I don't know. how you guys are building, but now it's like there's lights everywhere. You turn the
Yes.
lights on in a house and it's glowing from the, the neighbors could see. But here it's just, really, really chill. I'll tell you one of the adjustments being here is there's no curtains, there's no window coverings at all. So at night, when the lights are on in here, you're essentially on display. Now there's not really neighbors. There's a couple of neighbors off to that side, but um, so yeah, that's kind of been a weird adjustment of like, oh man, there's anybody could be like sitting in a tree watching right now.
Yeah. No, that's
But all in
wonderful.
all, it's yeah, it's um, I find myself sometimes just standing here like just admiring. It's really I don't take this for granted. I feel really really fortunate that um, I was given this opportunity, and I could literally tie it straight back to my social media presence. So how could I not encourage others to pursue that when it's brought me so much?
You see, if you spend time on social media, you might end up one day staying inside of a Frank Lloyd Wright building.
Oh man, and if there's any other Frank Lloyd Wright buildings that want to have me over, no, and there's a lot of
Oh
them on
me, oh me.
Airbnb. There's a lot on Airbnb, so you can rent them and spend some time in it.
Yeah.
They're not giving them away, but if you wanted the
Yeah.
experience, it's out there. So Falling Water, if you're listening,
Yeah, me
could you
too.
imagine?
Big enough
Could you
for it's
imagine?
big enough for the both of us. I think we could
I'd
both.
meet you there. I'd meet you
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
We'll have some friends stay up in the guest house. So it'll be an architectural influencing weekend. Could we
Oh,
do
that
that?
needs to happen.
Can we do that?
We could get Russell as well from Tanzania.
Yes.
Yeah.
You okay? Let's get on that.
Let's put it out there in the world. Let's manifest.
There's a rule in my house where nobody's allowed to say something would never happen because we've just had so much good fortune in our lives and crazy serendipitous collisions of things that have happened that have given us such great opportunities that, my wife and I are like, wow, that would never happen. And I'm like, no, that would totally happen. And, a lot of times it has for us. So, this being one of them.
Oh, wonderful.
And knowing a legend like you, Jason, goodness,
Oh,
it's a
you
treat to
too,
have you
man.
in my circle of friends.
No, it's wonderful. And I haven't really done a podcast for quite some time because I've had a terrible cough, a persistent cough.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that.
and there's a few people I wanted to get onto the show, so it's going now. I have an inhaler that I have to use, and it's
Hmm.
working. It's
Oh,
working.
good.
So I didn't want to record when I'm coughing all the way through. It's just
Yeah.
not pleasant for
No, I
anyone.
get that. But I'm
So
glad this I know we were tried to do this sooner. And then I said, oh, let's wait because I got this Frank Lloyd Wright house thing lined up. And you know, I'm I'm still a little skeptical sometimes, right? I'm like, well, what if it falls through? Like, what if it doesn't happen? What if for some reason, like, oh, Dory, we can't keep something, our lawyer said we can't let somebody else use the house anymore. Things come up all
yeah,
the time, right? So I was like, man, I really hope this works. And I'm so glad it did.
wonderful. Well, there we are. We're
There we are.
finished.
That was the fastest conversation of my life. It's always a treat talking to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming onto the podcast, and maybe we'll get you on again one day.
Yeah, I'm any chance to talk to you, I'll take it. Yeah, this is uh maybe we'll do it from Falling Water. I'm putting it out there.
Ah, I'll be there in person, definitely.
Or we could just do Oak Park. We'll just go, we should do one at Unity Temple. We can rent it. You can rent Unity Temple for events.
Wow.